What's up, Honda Nation? Today we're going to be going over the pros and the cons of the DCT transmission on the Honda Rubicon and what this little lever can do for you. Alright, stay tuned. So first I'm going to be going over some of the pros of the DCT transmission, the automatic in it. What I really like about the auto is that you can cruise along. You don't have to worry about shifting gears all the time, which isn't a big deal. But once you get used to riding auto, or you come from a CVT belt-driven machine, it's really nice to have it just work on its own and you just tour. You don't have to worry about a thing other than where you're going, obviously. Another thing I like about the DCT is that whenever you're stuck and you're in manual shift mode, you can just either upshift or downshift whenever you need to. You don't have to reach down and click up the shifter if you're not actually standing on your bike, so it's nice to be able to just use your thumb. I see videos of guys on foot shifts, they have to reach into the mud or into deep water, and it's something that you don't realize that you'd enjoy until you're actually on it and have the thumb shift, but I think it's a really nice feature or add-on benefit, whatever you want to call it. Speaking of the manual in the DCT, I will say that it works really well. It upshifts and downshifts really easily. If you're in second or third and you're driving too slow, it'll still drop it down for you automatically. So even though it's in manual, it's still kind of thinking for you in some sense, but it will not upshift for you. So if you're in first gear, in the mud or in the snow, you know, working the bike a lot, it will not pull up into that second gear unless you hit the upshift, which is really nice because it's good to keep it in first gear whenever I'm in mud and be able to hit those high RPMs and get the tires turning. Another thing I will say about the DCT is that it's really nice to have during hunting season. Late in the season, I wear really big winter boots, and on a foot shift, it's a little bit tight to get your boot in there for shifting, so it's nice to just throw this thing in auto and ride. You don't have to worry about getting your clunky boots in there and stuff, so that's another plus about it that I really enjoy. I get a lot of questions in my videos. People ask, hey, do you have a gear reduction? Wow, that thing spins those easy. You must have a gear reduction. What is it? This bike does not have a gear reduction. What I will say though is that, and credit to Mud Puppy, his video really explained this well. He has a chart, I'll link it below, you can go check it out. But whenever you're in low, because this has low and drive, in low, the first gear on this, it has a 7% lower first gear compared to the foot shift model, and that's because there's no low and drive mode in the foot shifts. So if you buy a DCT, you're actually getting a lower first gear, which is really nice because I have 29.5-inch tires, and in most stuff I can turn the tires unless it's really thick clay. Then I have problems. I'm not saying I won't ever get a gear reduction. It's definitely something I want one day, but as for right now, I can hop on it, throw the boots on it, and just go, which is really nice. Alright, so the next thing we're going to cover is the cons. And some of these cons can be considered with every ATV. First thing I'm going to start with is the tires. If you're putting on bigger tires, you're going to lose some performance. That goes with every ATV. But with the auto mode in this, once you add larger tires, it doesn't seem to know when to shift as easily, which kind of makes sense. It's programmed for the smaller tires. I get it. What I will say is I pretty much always run it in low now. Unless I'm on like a nice trail, I'll run it in drive where I can really like open it up. But it's pretty much always in low for these tires, just to get them turning. And it does turn them decently in first gear in manual, but once it's in auto, in mud, or snow, or you're on a hill, those three situations I've found it doesn't respond well. It doesn't know when to shift when it's in snow or mud. It kind of is always in too high of a gear, I would say, and you need it to stay down lower, but it always wants to upshift. And then on the hill, it just kind of screws you over a little bit. It upshifts and then it doesn't have enough power to keep going, so you really have to run it in manual on those steep hills. Another con of having this DCT is that it's one more thing to break. Honda's pretty well known for the reliability. I've seen a lot of people complain about the DCT, saying it's not reliable. This is my first one with DCT, but my father has had a couple with DCT and we've never had issues with them, knock on wood. But yeah, they seem to all work great in my opinion. Another con not so much with DCT, but just with Honda ATVs in general, I guess, but it has to do with the transmission, is the reverse. I really don't like the fact that you can't just keep hitting down into reverse. You have to pull the red lever, pull the brake, pull it back, and then hit down. And it doesn't always work right away. You have to retry it a couple times. Sometimes it works right away, but I just think that's something they could improve on. Either you just hit the downshift a couple times or have the shifter go into reverse. I wouldn't even mind that, you know? Just something a little easier than the system they have to make some small improvements in the years coming. Alright guys, here is the lever I'm talking about on the DCT model that the foot shift guys do not have. So that is the low side there and the high side there. And that makes a dramatic difference. I've done comparisons in the water where in low I can do water wheelies and move through with no problem. And whenever I'm in drive, I can hardly even get through the water. So it makes a pretty drastic change. So we're gonna go do some footage of the auto working in some muddy terrain, I guess you could say, and I'll show you how the manual works in the muddy terrain and the differences, and just to show that manual works a lot better. And I'll actually do a drive versus low mode too, and the drive is just gonna be embarrassing. So two-wheel drive, auto, low. Drive